'em up, lay it down just like Matt Amari. Wrestling RHAPUp's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock, cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every weekend, it's feeling like a party. Will like Ric Flair, showing out like Bianca, Belair, Best podcast, flush it in the air, Roman Reigns and we win it, don't care, No cap. Throw 'em up, lay it down just like Matt Amari. Wrestling RHAPUp's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock, cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every weekend, it's feeling like a party.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Wrestling RHAPUp podcast. I'm your host, Mari Forth, and with me, as always, my co-host, my tag team partner, Mr. Matt Scott. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm good. Happy to be here with you, Mari. I missed you last week. I had to replace you with Ari Ferarri and Dr. Amanda Benowitz and Billy Garcia. It took three people to replace you. So
wow. Thank you.
We're back.
Thank you. I am glad to be back. Taking a week off always feels so weird, but I had fun with my family, and my son turned 4, so I had to, just step away for a little bit. But we're back. We're here. And I'm glad to talk wrestling with you, Matt. I do miss it. I miss being it's just the two of us today. Just the two of us.
Okay, wait.
I know you can't.
But anyway, no, I love it. And, it's always nice whenever you just throw me into the fire and I need to host and get my big Wrestling RHAPUp host pants on, because I feel ready. I feel ready to dive in. I feel excited. I feel also like I have a brand new perspective on things after talking with last week's guest.
Yeah, so many
hopefully
people,
that enriches the conversation today.
Yeah, if you haven't checked that out, definitely go check it out. Fun time. So let's talk. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump directly into it. Let's talk a little bit about just a little news.
Oh, we have news?
I mean, it's a little news. AEW will be having their Revolution pay-per-view this weekend. I mean, the card looks stacked, Matt. It looks stacked. So looks like they're going with MJF versus Bryan Danielson, a 60-minute Iron Man match for the AEW championship. Like, that is insane. I've been seeing so much discourse about like MJF's championship reign and stuff like that. It's kind of weird that AEW, would you say AEW has a WrestleMania? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you think Double or Nothing is considered like their WrestleMania, like their huge event?
Or All Out, maybe? I mean, it's hard, I guess, between Double or Nothing and All Out, one way or the other. But yeah, and because All Out was really their first, but I think Double or Nothing was really their showcase, truly.
Yeah, right? So the reason why I asked that is because like that's the one thing I love about AEW. You know what I'm saying? Like, their pay-per-views it's not every single month. They have the really big ones, and they have the special episodes in between. So it's not as predictable. So the reason why I asked you that is because it's like, do we see some titles changing hands here, on Revolution? Like, is Revolution considered like a smaller pay-per-view, or maybe not? We also have Jamie Hayter versus Ruby Soho and Saraya for the AEW Women's Championship. We have Samoa Joe versus Wardlow for the AEW TNT Championship. Like,
War Daddy.
Lots of championships. Yeah,
War Daddy shouts the low from the Wrestling Wind Down. Come on. Lots of championships on the line here. And you do bring up an interesting point about like what will happen, what championships will change hands. I also have the question of, does it matter for a lot of these matches? Like, I think one of the narratives about AEW right now, where it stands, and it's weird because I feel like WWE and AEW kind of switched spots creatively last year, where Vince was out, Triple H was in. WWE has had this creative resurgence. Everyone's like loving what WWE is doing. Meanwhile, AEW had a lot that they kind of fell apart last year, like CM Punk, lots of injuries, lots of interim champions while there was a champion injured, even if that champion didn't necessarily come back in the case of like Thunder Rosa. So it was kind of messy, and I just feel like AEW needs to get it together. Tony Khan needs to get it together.
Get it together.
And I don't know if they're here, because like last week we could have covered AEW, and it's just it's not hitting as hard as WWE right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like it's very, very, very interesting, because like few months ago when MJF won that championship, everybody was excited, and now maybe, I don't know if it's just my timeline or something like that, but now it's seeming like people are like, this isn't working. Like they're already talking about taking the championship off of him. Again, that's just what I like. Maybe that might be the bubble I'm exposed to. If anybody out there wants to reach out to us and let us know what they think about MJF's run and stuff like that. But that's what I've been seeing. It's like very weird, like let me continue a little bit more with this card. We're getting the Guns versus the Acclaim versus Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett versus
Bang Bang
and then Orange Cassidy in a 4-way match for the AEW Tag Team Championship. Like that is one thing that I do love about AEW. Like I love a good 4-way match and stuff like that. I want to see more tag team championships hanging from the ring type thing too as well. But you want
to see Jeff Jarrett getting a spear off the top of the ladder like he's Jeff Hardy in 2001. That's what I want out of that match. And there aren't even any ladders involved.
There's no ladders, but it's still really something different. Yeah, it feels bad. It feels good than just keep doing a tag match. John Moxley versus Hangman Adam Page in a Texas death match. We all know who I will be going for, even though that's a hard one. I do like Mox too.
Sure.
The Elite versus House of Black for the AEW Trios Championship. It's man, all of the belts.
Well, that was the match we talked about. I believe we talked about the Elite versus House of Black when the Elite returned back in November. So
yeah,
they put on banger matches apparently between those two teams, and I haven't seen all of them. They had, I believe, a best of 7 series, which I'm assuming concluded. I know it finished, but now they're having this. Wait, no. I'm completely confusing teams. One? Nope, it wasn't House of Black. I made that up. It was actually
Dark Triangle.
Dark Triangle. Yeah. Let's go with that. So
I think it was Dark Triangle.
Anyway, the Elite has been killing it in terms of their trios run, and it's they return. They lost that return match, and then they kind of built up through the best of 7 series, and now they're doing this. So. Great stuff. By the way, lots of rumors, just to touch on it and move on, but about Kenny Omega potentially going to WWE. So another, I don't like to hate on AEW because I want to love AEW, but another thing not looking great for AEW. If they can't keep Kenny Omega around, we'll see.
I've heard those rumors, but I don't know if I believe them, but I don't be giving into them sometimes. So I don't know.
But I mean, look at Cody, so
exactly. Yeah. Chris Jericho versus Ricky Starks is one that I know people are clamoring for Ricky to win, clamoring. So, but we'll see, Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Christian Cage in a final burial match. Wow. Hopefully that ends that program. This program's been going on for a minute.
Yeah, really.
Mark Briscoe and the Lucha Brothers versus Ari Daivari versus Tony Nese versus Josh Woods. I mean, look at those names. Cruiserweights, blast for the past. And then finally, the Blackpool Combat Club, which will be Claudio and Wheeler Utah versus the Dark Order. So very, very stacked card. It's going to be interesting if we get a chance to watch it. Of course, we'll update you guys next week. All depends.
Yeah, I mean, no promises about if you want us to have watched
and
it
you want
or
to send
talk
us some
about
links,
Yeah.
I don't got
even YouTube after that, whatever it is. If it's grainy, reverse, slow down, sped up, we'll watch it.
I'm so spoiled by just having Peacock added to my cable that I don't have to pay for.
It's so expensive too for AEW. It's $50 for the show. And I mean, I was excited about the show that we saw, which I'm blanking on the name now.
Oh, the one
the November one. The
November.
Well, yeah, Grand Slam was the one I went to back in in September, but there was the one that happened on. You know what? We're gonna move on, but yeah.
I know what you're saying. Full gear.
Yes. Thank you, Mari, with your brain. But yeah, so we'll see. we'll see if we end up watching this. If anyone wants to hear about it, let us know. You know where to find us.
Exactly. So
we'll do our plugs at some point.
I'll do it right now.
Okay, good.
No, just fine. Yeah. So again, we'll let you know. We'll keep you posted on that. Other than that, we're just gonna move on. We're gonna keep it pushing this week. So please, if you haven't already, please go subscribe to the Wrestling with RHAPup podcast feed by going to robhasawebsite.com/wrestling feed. Subscribe to the direct feed. That's a great way to show your support. Also, please rate, review, and subscribe. We'll read it here on the podcast. You know, give us those 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars.
Yeah, shucky ducky quack quack.
Yes.
So
we would really appreciate that. So let's just take a very, very quick break and we'll be back to talk about the highlights of the week. All right, so I'm back.
You're
It
back.
is Women's History Month.
Yes, women history, but women's history, Mari. Like,
Yes.
that's really where it's at.
Exactly. So let's start with the women.
Who's your favorite woman in wrestling history?
Oh, that's hard. Like, it's hard, but we've talked about it. You know, I kind of it's always a toss up for me between like Chyna and Trish. But I would definitely say Chyna.
Yeah, I don't have a favorite. I'm not good at picking favorites, which is why it's not fair to ask. But I will say there's definitely the Chyna, the Trish, the Lita. You have Sensational Sherry somewhere before our time. Others, but you know what? You know who mine are. Well, and you know what? Maybe we'll talk about Chyna a little later in this podcast. You never know. You never know.
So we have to start off with like the biggest thing that's happened this week. So
what?
Becky Lynch and Lita are now officially the women's tag team champions.
Who knew that was happening? Maybe everybody.
This is kind of weird for me, right? Because it's like we had speculated 2 weeks ago when I was on here. I know for a fact that we were thinking that they were going to get a Mania match at the very least, like them versus Damage Control. There were rumors that Trish was supposed to come back their Monday after Elimination Chamber while they were still in Montreal, but for some reason they didn't use her there.
Nope.
Yeah, you guys talked about the Ding Dong Hello segment.
We did
last week. So were you shocked at all that they won here?
Okay, so here's my thing. I had a moment where there are a lot of scenarios that could happen going into Mania. So like they could have lost this match here and Trish comes out and evens the odds and then we get the 6-way match at Mania. Or we could have had them win and then defend. And Billy brought up something that I also thought about, which is like the Ronda and Shayna match. Like maybe it's Lita and Becky versus Ronda and Shayna, or maybe like there's so many freaking possibilities within this one. And I actually watched Raw after the fact and I wasn't spoiled. And I was surprised, but I didn't know for sure. And it did have that big match feel, like it could go either way. So for me, I was like down for this and I was excited about it. It was like a fun moment, which, you know, it wasn't the hardest hitting match, but you know how it is.
So yes, I knew a shameless Lita fan. I knew you were gonna take this.
Shut up. Leave me alone.
So no, I have a few problems.
Fine. No, okay, wait. No, okay. Here's what I'm gonna say. I understand where you might be coming from. I'm gonna have an open heart and a mind. Okay. And I might even agree with you. Logically, but emotionally, Mari.
Right.
I'm with the people. We're here with the Lita, Mari, tell me, what are your problems?
It's the same problems. It's the same problems from a year ago that caused Sasha and Naomi to walk. Like, you are not making your tag team champions a priority, and you clearly don't see them as a priority since you keep letting those titles switch hands before Mania. I'm sorry. Unlike AEW structure where we talked about, we don't know what the big show is, so anything could kind of be the big show. We know WrestleMania is the big show. We know that everything is a lead up to WrestleMania. And so what you're telling me is like, you don't care that these titles change hands on a random Raw, and you don't care about the story going into WrestleMania because it felt like it truly feels like this is seat of the pants type thing to me. You know what I'm saying? I also think it's a red resume patter for Becky because at this point she was the only horsewoman who had never won those titles. Remember when Charlotte had them for all of 2 weeks with Asuka that anyways, it just feels like now Becky can say she's a Grand Slam champion. Dakota and Io kind of look like scrubs in that match because they got barely any offense because they had to carry, and they looked great doing it, but they felt like the putty bin, like they felt like henchmen that were just like getting knocked down.
But Mari, in the defense of the putty men, like 30 years later, we're still talking about them. So I don't see what the problem is. I will say that I hear you and I agree with you. Like, I think that what I'm going to really agree with is that there's so much more depth they could have added to the women's tag team division because sure, we get like the Becky and Lita thing. They had their feud last year, which was like a good, decent feud that they built up based on history.
Yeah, definitely.
And then Lita comes back almost out of nowhere. And I just feel like, for me in particular, Lita doesn't have the emotional ties with this feud. Like, Lita is the legend that's in there, but not like what did Damage Control ever do to you, right? I would love for that to be a little bit more motivated. The Trish element of it is interesting because we were talking about Trish at one point, and I think weeks ago you might have made a comment, or maybe you didn't, but I remembered like something like, wait, what would Trish have to do with this? And Trish and Damage Control had a segment back in August together. Right when Damage Control formed, they were in Toronto. Trish was in the ring, and then Damage Control interrupted her and threatened to beat her up. And then like Bianca came out basically. So there was a little bit of a thing there, but I guess my problem is I just wish they would have built this story more consistently along the way. Like if we look at another story that hasn't been built week to week, but has kind of started around the same time. Dom and Ray for me is a great story because we haven't seen them face to face as much as we are right now. They're barely even touching, and yet we've had these references and allusions to them. And so it could have been nice if like Damage Control, one, long-term storytelling and booking, but like if Damage Control in like November or like December or January, like took just these shots at Trish and Lita, and then it pays off here. But I hear you, Mari. It does feel a little random, and as great as it is, and as much as I like it, I don't love it because I know it could be so much bigger and like more built up.
It doesn't feel like a priority.
Exactly. It feels like an afterthought, not like a priority.
Yeah, and it's just annoying because I'm like they're right. They're still right. It's and like I was kind of saying with AEW as well. All right, so it does feel like we're slowly trying to like build women's teams that make sense, right? With Chyna and Ronda. Yeah, we'll talk about Candice and Nikki a little bit. Like it feels like Toxic Attraction got broken up, but like it feels like they're trying to build some teams. So I would honestly wish like I said, hang them belts up. Like, yes, have a ladder match, have Becky and Lita versus
TLC,
Io.
baby.
Yeah, like
TLC.
Oh my god, a women's TLC
at Mania. Could you imagine a women's TLC?
Oh my
Lita
gosh.
and Becky versus Damage Control versus Ronda and Shayna.
Sure. Yeah, because
Weird
you don't want
combination of
Ronda.
people,
You
but-
don't want Ronda and Shayna in there with just Lita and Becky.
No, heck, throw in Shotzi and Tegan too. Make it a 4-way. And I don't care. I don't know what that means for everyone else. But hey, Mari, wouldn't that be insane if that's what they're leading to?
That
a
would
women's
be-
TLC match at Mania.
That would be so cool.
Lita has referenced the past tag team. She's like, oh, and by the way, this is the thing too, where it's like you just started to talk about this past week, but it's like, remember all the tag teams that I was with? It's like, oh yeah, that is kind of cool, but yeah, lean into that.
But but will they actually do it? Probably not, because they
of course
barely give the women anything. So I just feel like this could be better. This could be so much better, and it's just very annoying. It's like very, very annoying. Plus, like, where's Bianca? Like,
she's around some places, but she's in the background.
She like, Asuka had a match with
last week it was
Carmella.
With oh yeah, Carmella.
Yeah. This week it was with Carmella.
Yeah,
and Asuka.
She's on the Destroyer tour. Like, she beat up Nikki Cross, who lots of interesting stuff with Nikki and Candice LeRae. And then she now beat up Carmella. Like, that's the build for Asuka and Bianca, I guess. It's just like,
and
Asuka
Bianca
being
sitting
this
on commentary, which I don't understand. Like,
and Asuka like oozing mist out of her mouth.
Like, I don't like it. I still don't like it.
Last year.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I need Asuka to, like, I need the evil. Like, I truly need the evil. Like, her hitting Carmella, laughing, smiling about it. Like, it's like they wanted to kind of turn her dark, but because she's been getting such good reactions from the crowd, they kind of don't want to. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like a good build up to this, like Asuka and Bianca, could be like Bianca walking backstage and Asuka popping out of nowhere and blue misting the hell out of her and then beating her up. You know what I'm saying? Like, do stuff like that. Like do stuff like that. Like, make build up that, like, Asuka has the blue mist and Bianca, it'll like build the match around Bianca having to watch out for the blue mist. Like, build the match up to, like, if Bianca gets blue misted, it's basically over. You know what I'm saying? Like, my bad, y'all. My bad.
Is that Bianca calling? Because honestly, Bianca, like, I just want to hear from Bianca more. I want her to be at the center of the story more. I want the center of the
story,
because it's just so. It is here's what I could imagine backstage. Like, that maybe they're saying, oh, this match is big enough, people are going to watch it regardless of how we build it. Like, so they are building it as they do with every match technically, but it goes back to this thing with Bianca that I don't like, which is, why does she have to be the chaperone on commentary? Like, when they have others building, and actually we did see this with Asuka and Becky before the Asuka, Becky, Bianca three-way that happened whenever it happened, which is that, again, it was Bianca as the chaperone on commentary. Give us something new and fresh in that sense. But I will also say that I won't let the lack of the build tamper down maybe that's the word phrase, but my excitement, like, for the match at Mania, because it will be a banger. But I just wish more people were pumped for this one as, like, their match going into Mania. But maybe that will change. Probably not.
It constantly feels like Bianca is getting these matches where like with her and Sasha, and then now with her and Asuka, it's like whenever she has to build a match where she's in the same alignment as the opponent, they don't know what to do with her. They just stick her on commentary. But like the build up to her and Becky's match last year was so good because Becky was the heel, like a straight up heel, and Bianca was carrying as a babyface again against a heel Becky. So it's just kind of like I don't know. I need them to get it together, like truly. But also, because I'm a little rusty, all of these highlights that we're talking about are in our handy dandy highlights playlist that you can see at the bottom of the show notes or the YouTube description. You can follow along, watch along with us, or just listen to us. But yeah,
and so you know what? If you're not looking at our beautiful faces, on YouTube, RHAPup.com/YouTube, that's okay, but you're missing out.
You're missing out. Exactly. You're only getting half the story. Yeah. So yeah, I really do. I want more for Bianca and Asuka as well. But like you said, I'm really still excited about the match. So you can't take that away. So let's move on to, you mentioned Candice LeRae and Nikki Cross. You guys talked about it last week about Nikki Cross and Candice LeRae. I just want to put my 2 cents in before we get into
Yeah,
what happened
because
this
how
week.
do you feel? Like it's interesting. Like we have had this. We haven't talked about it yet, Mari, or really. Well, the two of us haven't talked about it. Last week was the first time it came up. There have been these segments where Candice LeRae, for a while, had Nikki Cross just creeping in the background, and then Candice became aware of it, which now she's aware of it and creeped out. And Nikki Cross basically just said last week that she's lonely.
Yeah.
Which, how do you?
I love this. I did. I love it because it's calling back to the way. You know what I'm saying? Like one of the reasons she became aware of Nikki's in the background is because, you know, Dexter Lumis had drawn a picture of like oh, it's the family, and then it's like Nikki in the back, you know. I love this because for people who didn't watch the NXT, the build of the way, and like how it went from like, it was like the way started almost like a conceited heel faction when like Austin Theory and they were still heels, to like when Austin left, it then turned into like Dexter Lumis and Indy like a Romeo and Juliet, and then it turned into a family once Candice was pregnant and they were like the good guys again. And it's like it's so funny how the way morphed, and it feels like a goofy family. And I like that Nikki is realizing that she kind of wants that family, and that Candice and Johnny and Dexter can probably provide that in a way that on the main roster it still feels cool. It's like not, you know, it might not be as character driven as it was on NXT, where half the time they would just get like backstage segments, or, you know, we got the wedding, the index wedding and stuff like that. So I think it's cute. Yeah, exactly. I do. This does worry me for Indy, because I'm wondering like what'll happen when Indy come up to the main roster. Does this mean that there's no space for her there, or, you know, I don't know how that goes, but I do like this. I like Candice kind of being like the mother, like, come, you know, and Nikki. I think Nikki needs it. I think she does. Unfortunately, all of the characters she's been going through since Sanity are just not working through no fault of her own. I think it's creative's fault. But her being kind of like the wild child in the way, kind of like almost like a female version of Dexter Lumis, is actually something I'm very interested in. And I love that. I love that kind of, and it also, and then at first I thought they might have been going we talked about like the Mickie James Trish aspect.
Yeah, we brought that up. Yeah.
Which, you know, no, they can't do it like that. They like, I like this kind of sweet one, this sweet way here.
Yeah.
Almost like Nikki being Candice's attack dog or something like that.
Well, also because the Mickie James Trish Stratus dynamic, which like also we referenced last week in relation to this, is not really the dynamic, because Candice isn't the Trish Stratus. Like that Mickey's character, and that's relatable because it was Trish Stratus. This already by that point iconic woman in the division. So having that super fan made sense. This is different. And I would love to see the dynamic of like the two women being on the same side. We saw it with Indy and Candice, and you put it out there. Like, Candice not only is this motherly figure, but she's literally a mom, and that seeps into her character. The fact that she's associated with Johnny, her husband or father of baby wrestling, is also a thing. So like, I'm into this. I don't know what this means for Indy, but I would love to see the like current legal paperwork between Dexter and Indy for their relationship, because I do believe that Dexter and Indy are still legally married, and I just don't want an affair between Dexter and Nikki Cross, because Indy doesn't deserve that.
I don't think
Nikki's a little feral for love, but hey.
Exactly. I think if Indy does come up, then her and Dexter could just kind of be it would kind of be cool to see them go up against Rhea and Dom, wouldn't it? Like let's get some more mixed tags up in here. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you know what? You bring up something, and we'll get to talking about Rhea, but just a side note that Rhea has so much that she could do. with just Dom without a championship, very fascinating on that
Yes.
note. But yeah, I would love to see that too with
You know what I'm saying?
the way reforming and that dynamic.
Yeah, and it could be like the way reforming, like it could be like the way would be like Judgment Day, but just kind of like gender flipped in a sense. You know what I'm saying?
We
Like
love that, though.
because yeah, exactly. Like more women than men in the faction.
Yeah, that
You
reminds
see what I'm
me of
saying?
the like back in the day. Back in the day, there used to be a team that was very. I feel like in
Are we
WWF days. Do you know
are
what
we
I'm
thinking
talking
about the
about?
same ones? Yeah. Are we thinking
What are you gonna say? What
was
are you
it
gonna say?
PMS? Was it
Yeah,
PMS?
PMS, Pretty
And then
Mean Sisters with
yeah, Pretty
Sean
Mean Sisters.
Stasiak,
Yeah, as
which
meat.
like
Yeah.
with as meat, yes. Which like by the way, we love some empowerment. Like
Yeah.
that's what I mean, I don't think there needs to be like a sexual dynamic there.
Yeah.
But this picture is wild, by the way,
Camp.
Mari, in the
Camp.
context of
High drag.
but I just mean like having, and honestly, like Austin Theory would be a good meet, just like
Well, I mean, he was a himbo when he
he
was in the way.
still is.
Yeah, I mean,
But yeah, no, I like in general, I love anytime we get to see more than one woman on the same
yeah,
side because
me
you
too.
never get to see that in WWE. So unless it's like a tag team, but even those don't last clearly. So I'm down for whatever they give us.
And
here.
they could face Damage Control depending on what happens, like with Damage Control. I really the booking of Damage Control has irked the hell out of me. Like, truly.
Indy, Candice, and Nikki versus Damage Control at some point.
Exactly.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And Candice still has some beef with the Damage Control. So
Exactly.
woo!
Exactly. Woo.
I'm excited.
So I definitely liked it. This week, Candice was dealing with Piper Niven, who, they're still got beef because of that qualification match that they both didn't qualify for the Elimination Chamber. And this match was pretty good too. Like Piper and Candice like win. I love, again, I talked about how like I've been missing that big powerhouse. I'm so glad Piper is back. I'm so glad she's back. I really want her to get some. I want them to get a storyline for her, but I know that we're gonna, for some of these superstars, we're gonna have to wait till after WrestleMania for them to start finding direction. And unfortunately for Piper, I think that's where we're gonna be at. We don't know if there's gonna be a like the women's battle royal or like the Andre the Giant, the women's version of that. But I could definitely see Piper maybe winning that if they have that this year.
Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like I was sleeping. I was like woke up in the middle of the night one night in the last week, and I was like, oh my gosh, Piper Niven isn't getting pushed now, but they'll push her later this year. I don't know what that specific thought was, but like it's okay that they're gonna wait to build to it. And I think that there's an idea or a plan there. Kind of like with Candice and Nikki, like we're getting something now, and it took some time to heat up, and it was subtle at first and becomes less and less subtle. But hopefully everyone has their time and kind of but Piper especially, we need to get there.
Because some stuff that's built during WrestleMania season doesn't have to end at WrestleMania. You know what I'm saying? They have to start planning for what to do after it. So yeah, like I agree. But Nikki Cross kind of gets in the way here, but allows Candice to get the win. So
the way that Nikki Cross gets in the way.
in the way, yeah.
Damn.
This is the way. Shout out to the Mandalorian fans. So I like this. I like where this is going. And even if it might just be like kind of like women's filler matches, I'm still glad we're getting them. And they feel like they have a thread, they have a story to them. So it doesn't feel like kind of like on SmackDown where we got Chyna versus who was it?
Duh.
Tegan? Was it Tegan or what? No, or was it? I don't know. It was somebody, and that's what I'm like. I didn't care.
That's the point.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like this, I'm like invested in. I truly am, and I hope they kind of keep going with it. Keep going with it. So the women are like doing fabulously. You're doing great, sweetie.
Go the women.
Yeah.
Making history.
Yeah, making history. So we have to move on over to Rhea Ripley, who is just, oh my God, she's killing it. She's killing it.
She has too many
love it.
stories. I love it. I love it. Not complaining at all. She has so much going on. There's
I
the
love
Dom
it.
of it all, which is its own,
Yeah.
like that could stand on its own with Rey
Oh my
Mysterio
God.
and all that magic. But then she has the WrestleMania match with Charlotte, who, by the way, Mari, Charlotte, kind of similar to Bianca, takes a back seat here, which is really interesting that both the women's champions are like in the background as opposed to being in like the main featured most interesting spot.
Yeah, I agree, but unfortunately, Charlotte is actually at least allowed to have a promo, maybe because of her alignment. Currently, she's tweener-ish, I would say. Her character always leans kind of heavily heel, and so she gets that segment that you guys talked about with her and Dom, which okay, I'm sorry. I have to give my thoughts on that segment. That segment, oh my gosh. Like I've never like listened/watched the whole segment and like cringe, but also like applaud at the same time. I
Wait,
was
Dom
like,
and Charlotte, you mean?
Dom and Charlotte. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did I say something? Yeah, Dom and Charlotte segment from last week. Like that segment, I was done. I'm not gonna lie, I was like completely done. Why was I was like clapping at Charlotte's spots. I was like, stop it. Like, this is like insane. Only Dom can be the person that'll make me be like, I am on Charlotte's side right now. Like, this is horrendous, but it was so good. I thought it was so funny. Like, Dom coming out first, calling her Queenie. He hit all of those notes, those cringy notes that you hate, like, oh, smile more,
Oh my
like,
God. And I will say the thing that's hilarious about this is that like Dr. Amanda last week was like, hey, so I know that Charlotte is the daughter of Ric Flair and Dom is the son of Rey Mysterio, but like, is that not part of the story? And I was like, no, that's not even, they're not even touching that aspect of it, which is awesome. Like they don't even need to go to that well, which
they don't need to
done a million times, and they could too, but
Charlotte calling him a Nino was hilarious because it instantly made me remember. I was like, oh, right. And then when she referenced, she's like, I am married to a real.
Yeah, I was like, where's Andrade? Where's Andrade? Get him out here. And then I'm like, this could be the Mania match too. Dom and Rhea versus Charlotte and Andrade.
I'm telling you, like it was great. It was great. I love the segment. I don't mean to like go over like what you guys already did, but you guys know, everybody, if you're listening, you know that I love the Dom and Rhea stuff. Like I truly do. And watching Dom go back and forth on the mic with Charlotte it was good. Rhea, she just came out and just got into her face, which again reminded me how like tall Charlotte is. And like that lady is tall.
I will say Rhea specifically, I believe this week did mention, she made some comments, I think during her match with Liv, which we'll get to, but about like how Charlotte wears 6-inch heels or something. So maybe she's not. I mean, I guess she's tall.
Well, because remember we like looked up their heights like on air, and like Rhea's only like 5'8".
Oh no, this was with I remember this. This was Pastor Solomon. He was the one who was doxing all of their heights.
Yeah, doxing.
It's like she's 5'8". I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, Charlotte's actually 6 feet though. Like that's the thing. Yeah, but she does wear them heels. Rhea's not wrong. But yeah, so let's get to this week. Rhea and Liv had a match on SmackDown. Again, just a barn burner of a match. I still think, even though Rhea and Asuka are kind of doing the same thing, Rhea being the Royal Rumble winner automatically kind of adds gravitas to what she's doing,
Totally.
Yeah, because that's the spot, the Royal Rumble to WrestleMania main event. That's the spot. Asuka won at Elimination Chamber, but that's not the spot. It's Rhea and Charlotte main eventing night 1, I think is what I heard. They might main event night 1.
I don't know.
But Rhea versus Liv, my God, the chemistry between the two of them has always been so apparent. They reference on commentary how they used to tag together, but they are just so good at what they do.
Oh, Mari, and they referenced Liv as Miss Money in the Bank, and they referenced Liv as the runner-up for the Rumble. watching this match, like I'm so glad I watched like the entire thing just to
Yep.
take it in, because like this is
So
maybe
good.
the best match, in my opinion, that I've ever seen either of them in. Because it told a good story. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
this is for me, this could be like the Sasha and Bailey, like just keep
Mm-hmm.
coming back to this, because I don't know how this happened, but Liv went from not being a legit champion who wasn't really thriving across from Ronda to being in this spot where it's like, oh, I believe it. Like she could be the champ any moment, and she's
Because you
bringing it
remove
with the
the Ronda effect.
performances. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
she is such a good foil to Rhea. Not that they're opposites at all, because they have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
similarities, but like, ooh, this match was a barn burner, Mari. I
Yeah.
loved it. I really loved it. I could watch it again. I could
I've
watch it
I've
again.
s- I've said it before and I'll say it again. Liv Morgan will bump her ass off. She is one
Mhm.
of the best. Now that Sasha's gone, she's the best seller in the women's division. I can
Let me tell you.
confidently say
Speaking of bumping her ass off, she did like
she
a
did Sasha's
dive
spot.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
dive out from the middle, literally just like landing on her face on the
Yep.
floor, which I watched
Mhm.
about 7 times. Like, how do you take that bump? Just how do you like even emotionally prepare yourself to take a bump where you're jumping down 6 feet to the ground,
Mhm.
7 feet to the, like, what the hell? It's insane.
She honestly sells and bumps. I love Liv Morgan. I will say it every time she is on the screen, and her and Rhea are just perfect together. Like Rhea is the
Mhm.
perfect base to be
Mhm.
catching and to be jumping off of and all of that.
Yeah, and
So
I'll
mhm,
also say I could have seen Liv winning here, like, legitimately. If
mhm,
Liv got the win, I wouldn't have been shocked, especially because Rhea, the way she's been booked, like, I mean, she didn't eat the pin, but she did
right.
lose the
She technically
Beth
lost, yeah.
to Beth and to Edge at Elimination Chamber, and again, like, if Liv got the win here, somehow, through some means, like, it builds Liv up. I don't think it knocks Rhea down too much, but
Mhm.
whatever. But like, this was perfect.
It was
I loved
great.
it.
It was great. I loved every second of it as well.
I did too.
And this is how you build to a WrestleMania. This is how you build up your
Mm-hmm.
contender. Tens across the board,
And
honestly.
across the board.
And and like you said, Rhea talking into she like had Liv in the ropes and was like talking into the camera to Charlotte. It was just it's just all great. And it remind me of the build of Rhea versus Charlotte building to what was that? Was that Money in the
Couple
Bank?
few. Oh.
Yeah, that feud
Mm-hmm.
over the summer where I was like, this is a great feud. This feud
Yeah.
is good, but they need to stick the landing, and they didn't. And it falls flat, and then you don't remember that feud as much. But I
Right.
again love the one-upmanship that Charlotte and Rhea were doing back then in that feud. That anything you can do, I can do better. That Charlotte, I have the video of Charlotte being like, "You're learning, bitch." Like I have it saved in my Twitter so I can like, dump it on anybody at any point, So
Oh wow. Stay
like
ready.
honestly, I like that. They could go back to that style feud and just let Rhea win. You can't keep having Charlotte talk about how much she beat Rhea up over the past 3 years and not let Rhea win. Like if
This is
Rhea does
not
not win,
Charlotte's story. It's
I
not
that's what I'm
Charlotte's story.
saying. Like if Rhea doesn't win at WrestleMania, I'm going to be so upset. Like I am going to be so pissed off.
And what does Charlotte gain from beating Rhea?
Like
Nothing.
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 Absolutely nothing.
She's Charlotte
Right.
freaking Flair. We know. We got
It's
it.
stupid. Yeah. So yeah. And so we also got this week we got Dominic and Santos Escobar. They started off with a backstage segment where like Escobar I couldn't find it anywhere. Like if I can find it, I will try and put it in our show notes. But this backstage segment was so funny to me. Rhea had just finished beating up Liv. Her and Dom are in the back. Santos comes up and he's like talking crap to Dom like you need to respect your father. Your father is one of the greatest. He's like, if you're half the man you think you are, I'm going out to the ring right now. You'll be out there to join me and face me. And he's like, he said, Hermano, then he like made a gesture at Rhea Ripley or Mono, like man on man. He said, "Leave mommy here." And then as he was leaving, he's like, "Mommy," and he said it to Rhea, and then he like blew a kiss at her and walked away. And
what a sweet boy.
Tom was mad.
What a sweet boy.
It was so funny. And so of course it went to commercial. Santos was in the ring, and I was really like, oh my god, Santos Escobar is like face. Like I'm gagged. Yeah, like Legado del Fantasma, one of my favorite factions in NXT. They mostly worked heel, and we didn't get Zelina this week. We didn't get the rest of Legado this week because from what the story is being told, Santos is like, let's go one-on-one, you know?
And the Zelina thing too. I think if you just actually, I'd be really interested in seeing what they would do there, but it just muddies things up, especially when you have Rhea on the opposite side too. Like, they're gonna have to fight if Zelina shows up across from Rhea. So
which I think will happen later. Yeah.
At some point, right? But we don't need that going into Mania with everything else Rhea has going on, especially.
Exactly. Like that, exactly. Like this is a perfect builder and a binder to Dominic and Ray, while also turning Santos face. I mean, I'm buying it. I think the crowd's buying it. I love the exchange of mask, and he was holding Rey Mysterio's mask when he came down to the ring. He had it on a little pedestal. It was kind of weird. Like it did like kind of cross over to like a little weird. Like, why do you care so much?
Yeah, and it felt a little like a mask on a pole match, except without the pole.
Yeah, but I like it. I do like the like I will teach you respect type thing, It's kind of
but it's none of your business. Like
it's
honestly,
not.
Okay, so last week, Mari, I turned around on all this where I realized that Dom is doing nothing wrong. Dom is the good guy in this scenario. His father is the one who should be stepping it up and trying to repair their relationship. But what? Dom has to go all the way to SmackDown to repair their relationship with his father. And then this guy, Santos, who's not even in the family, is sticking his nose in the family's business. Like, leave Dom alone. Dom is weak. Dom needs help. He needs support. Yeah. He is the babyface in my mind.
The biggest thing of this, though, too, is good that, like, because if you think about it, Dom has not been working as much. He hasn't been in the ring as much, which, that was the only unfortunate thing with this match between Santos and Dom. I think there were a few little hiccups. But again, Dom not being able to wrestle kind of just adds to the obnoxiousness of the character in a sense.
And I'll say this too, that I didn't like when I saw this match, I wasn't excited. And actually in general, like when we go into covering these, I'm never really too excited for like the match itself. Because they haven't always done a good job of telling the story. It's like, okay, there's a match and then there's something that happens after the match. But they really told a story in this match with the mask and with the respect. And Dom is, to his credit, like very great at the non-verbals with his mixed with his story at telling the story of what's going on. So this was like great for what it was supposed to be. Like if it was a great match, it wouldn't have really. I think that Dom shouldn't be having great matches.
Yeah, it's like it adds to the in-ring psychology of it all. That he's still kind of like a bumbling kid that's still trying to like. But it just made me think about it because 2 years ago when him and Ray were the tag team champions, which they referenced several times on commentary, he was working like with his dad, and I remember how good he was. Remember we were talking about like how why is he this tall doing these moves? You know what I'm saying? Like
it did look strange, but it's funny now because like maybe because he's not always next to Ray, but he doesn't come off as tall. Like he comes off as being, but with the personality especially, like kind of being somewhat diminutive and like just cowardly. But next to Ray, that man Tom looked way too big. He still does.
So so the match itself was like okay, but Dom ends up getting the win.
Yes, after Rhea hits the Riptide on Santos. So.
Yes, which I'm like Rhea out here doing double duty. Like she just had a full entire match.
She's awesome. Best in the world, future world champ.
Yeah. And and so yeah, Dom gets the win, attacks Ray after the match, right?
And
Rips
tears
his
his mask
mask.
up.
Ugh.
Yeah,
I
rude.
mean, so good. I really can't wait for their match around. Mm.
Is WWE paying Ray to have these masks made and ripped up? Are these replicas? Because I don't like that.
Oh, it's sad.
This is
He
good
like
money.
Ray signed it for Santos, and he talked.
Oh, that's so
Man,
sad.
that
Oh
is.
man.
Yeah.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, so like this is gonna be good. I like this. I like all of this. Truly.
Yeah, that's so
I don't
sad.
care. I the Judgment Day, Dom, Rhea, they can't do any wrong to me.
I know. I
Yeah, I
love it.
know.
I love it. I love the intertwining of a couple of stories here. And like last week, one thing that I was really amazed by was like the Judgment Day just having their their hands in so many different fires.
Yeah.
There's definitely some
Yeah.
pots in different fires, whatever it is.
Cookie
And it's
jars, whatever.
cookie
Yeah.
jars. Yes, also those. But yeah, it's like you have the Edge and Finn stuff happening. And then you have the Rhea and Dom stuff, but then you have the Rhea Charlotte stuff, and then the Dom and Ray stuff. So they're doing this right leading into Mania.
This is
Like,
so
great
good.
job
I
on
know.
WWE. Great job.
That's how you book a faction. Like that is how you book a faction. Like dang. Yeah. All right. Let's take a quick break and we'll finish up with the men.
Woo.
Okay. So, let's talk about this what's going on here. Yeah.
What's going on here with some of the men's?
Yeah, some of the men's. So Brock will now be going one-on-one with Omos at WrestleMania, while it looks like Bobby Lashley will be facing Bray Wyatt and possibly Uncle Howdy.
Yes, let's talk about all of this together.
You're right. We have to.
Because you might recall, dear listeners, that just a few weeks ago, it was the Bobby Lashley versus the Brock Lesnar, and they were going head to head, and we were like, oh, this is going to be the match at Mania too. And they took a hard pivot, which I'm not mad about any of it. I'm actually happy.
Fine with it.
I'm happy. Yeah, because like Omos and Brock need something to do so they could go do their thing, whatever. We'll be happy with it. Omos is big. He'll make Brock look like a baby. Bray, Bobby, they could do things. We'll talk about that. That's a little bit more interesting. Mari, what are your thoughts generally on like these dynamics?
My general thought is this is why you shouldn't do things before you have plans set, because just a few weeks ago before the Brock and Bobby of it all, I think we were talking about it, like Bray Wyatt alluded to facing Brock Lesnar, and then all of a sudden like they pulled the plug on it. I think, Matt, you were saying, and I think I saw some sources too, that it might be that Brock is not interested in working with Bray Wyatt. So a plan that they thought they may have had, they pulled the plug on it. They did the pivot. Now Brock is going to face Omos, but it's kind of weird too, because we thought they were going towards a new Hurt business, but now MVP is still with Omos.
I think they might. To me, it kind of feels like they could still be heading in that direction, just maybe post Mania. Like, and they didn't need to do that. Honestly, Mari, like if they are heading in the direction of Hurt business, number one, it's funny because I'm very confused about MVP's relationship with Lashley. Like, I feel like I missed something.
Because, like we kept getting these segments where MVP keeps trying to help Bobby, but Bobby keeps being like, I don't need your help.
And yet he's still like referencing Lashley or so maybe they'll go there after Mania and we'll see more of that story. Weird times with all of it, actually. MVP's in a very strange spot here, and I love MVP. Good on him. Yeah, he's great, but it's just like what is going on? Like, so, and why isn't Omos showing up to fight his own battles?
MVP is just so good though. Like I love him being like a manager, like an antithesis to like the other side of the coin for like from a Paul Heyman, and his like the stuff he talks about like on Twitter, and talk about the Hurt Business, and talk about like how factions work, and how you really want to have people that you're actually connected with. You don't want to just throw all the black people into a faction and stuff like that. Like,
oh, you don't?
No, I know, right? MVP has been doing so great since he came back, and I'm so glad we have him in this capacity. And I like that he's bringing intrigue to both Omos and Bobby Lashley, honestly, because I wouldn't really care about Omos if it wasn't for MVP. I know that for a fact, you know. So I you know, a big meaty men slapping me is cute and all. It's fine. It's whatever. This isn't. It's not my fort. This is not. This is not what I really like. So Brock and Omos, cool, whatever. Let's move on to Bobby and Bray Wyatt, because I am confusion.
Okay, yeah, keep going. Tell me about
the Bray Wyatt of it all, like what, last week on SmackDown when we got the Bray Wyatt, the can you keep a secret video?
Girl.
Like, I don't know. Like, I feel sad that I like my interest in Bray Wyatt is now waning. It was so at its peak around October of last year, and now it kind of feels like they waited too long to pull the trigger on all of it, that now I'm just kind of like over it, because I don't know. Like, I feel like maybe I should go back and watch those early promos, but I felt like when Bray first came back, you don't need to.
I said you probably don't need to. Yeah.
Yeah, like those early promos when Bray came back, I felt like we were getting more of an internal struggle between Bray and Uncle Howdy, and now I feel like we lost the plot. Like, why are we back in the funhouse? Like, it was kind of cool to see the Firefly Funhouse, but then now it's kind of like, is it? Are we getting a faction? What happened with Alexa? Like, you know,
let me give you something, Mari. I think I know what the problem is with Bray. You know, when you go to the movie theater, what was the last movie you saw?
Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
So that's like, what genre would you say? Is that like action?
That's superhero action.
Superhero action, whatever. Like, imagine if you walk into the theater and it's like ends up being a horror movie instead of the action movie, or like it's like Eddie Murphy with Ant-Man. You're like, what the hell is this comedy? Like, I thought I was showing up for an action movie. I feel like with Bray, the way that it was built and introduced, it was this very cerebral setup of, this is horrifying, like, we need to take this seriously, this is the White Rabbit, and then he ends up being this comedy character doing the muscle man dance, and it's just like, what kind of movie am I watching? And I don't know what kind of movie I'm watching, so I don't know how I'm supposed to feel. Am I supposed to laugh? Am I supposed to be scared? Like, it's just all over the place, but that's what Bray is. And so this week I feel like I'm coming around to getting like, oh, Bray is just this insane character that I still don't like, but he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. It's just like a little bit too deep, I think.
Yeah, it's like, I know it's like supposed to be mockery. Bobby Lashley said he's not going to be mocked by Bray Wyatt and stuff like that, but I don't know. Like, it's even weird. Like, even at the Pitch Black match, like, that oddly worked for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it had more of a weird aura, you know, with Uncle Howdy doing the dive at the end, and you know, it still worked for me. Like, that pushed the line. Like, it was on the line of like corny or camp and cerebral and scary. Like the Muscle Man dance. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, what am I supposed to do with this?
I will say this, that nothing. Nothing. I mean, here's my problem is that, well, my problem with that is that that will be hilarious to a certain segment of the population, and that's what I feel like it was designed to be. Like, the kids, like, oh yeah, the Muscle Man dance, oh yeah. But the thing is, Bobby Lashley is responding to it all perfectly in character. He is not fazed by it at all. So then it just becomes an annoyance, as opposed to a situation where Bobby's afraid of the lights going out, or Bobby's afraid of the weird, mystical, whatever stuff that Bray and Uncle Howdy are bringing. So to me, it's just strange because like Bobby basically is no-selling Bray's humor, which makes Bobby look a little bit better rather than him being scared. But I don't know. It's just like very odd. Who is it for?
I don't know. And then on SmackDown this week, we got Bobby came to SmackDown and got a really good reception. They were here in our backyard. They're in DC. I didn't even realize it until the broadcast started.
I heard.
Yeah.
They were around.
Yeah. And then as Bray's music was playing, Uncle Howdy comes and attacks him in the back. And how do we feel about this Uncle Howdy mask and hair combo?
I'm fine. I like it. I like it because it's different. But again, it's like it's the horror versus comedy thing, which makes a huge difference. Because I don't know if it's supposed to be funny and goofy or not. And I don't know. What are you thinking?
It's not.
It's disturbing. Yeah, Mari, ghosts are popping up all over the place.
I know.
Not throwing things all over.
But yeah,
no.
Oh, but
I'm
yeah,
just looking at this in another angle. Hopefully you're watching on YouTube with this stuff. But it is, oh my God, wait, here's an even better angle of this mask and hair. This drag. So here's one.
This drag.
And yeah.
Oh wow, yeah.
It's,
it's interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad.
What is it giving?
I don't know. The coloring. I wonder if the coloring could be like a little.
Yeah, I mean, it's different, right? And it's nice to have different or distinct. The mask is creepy. But again, how does this fit with the Muscle Man dance?
I do feel like I like this mask better than the one that they were using backstage that had the I like that the mouth is cut up of this one.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'll go with it.
Yeah, not bad.
Weird.
I do like this version better.
Yeah. They've evolved it subtly.
Yeah, they have. Because you know what I'm saying? When Uncle Howdy first he had the kind of pointy chin. And it was a full mask. Yeah. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad.
Okay, good.
So, yeah. So Bobby is dealing with Uncle Howdy and Bray Wyatt, apparently? Question mark? I don't know. We'll see where this goes. Does that mean Bobby would have to find a partner?
No. Bobby doesn't need a partner.
Okay.
Bobby can
that's
do
fine.
2-on-1 if he wants. He's Bobby freaking Lashley.
Bobby freaking Lashley. So we'll see where it goes. It's not bad. It's just a little. I like Matt said, I'm still trying to process how I'm supposed to feel about it all. But
yeah,
we'll see.
Fair enough.
We'll see. This week on SmackDown, Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes came face to face. This was Cody's first time in 7 years on SmackDown. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I mean, who pointed that out? I mean, I just
on commentary.
I'm sure, but I just always think it's funny because it's oh, I wouldn't have noticed. Fun fact. Because he's been in video packages and referenced on SmackDown, but
right.
You know what? If WWE is getting any mileage out of oh my God, his first time on this show in forever, even though he's been on the other show, good on them. Good on them.
This promo lit up the internet. Can we talk about Roman starting with dropping the belts like they're almost nothing, and then saying,
Evil.
So what do you want to talk about? Cody's signature line. I'm sorry, Roman ate here. This promo was yikes. Somebody it was funny. All of the discourse on Twitter that I saw was Cody, how are you just gonna let Roman play you like that? It was funny. Roman Roman talked about how Dusty Rhodes, who was one of his coaches down at NXT, basically said like Roman was the son he never had. Roman was the greatest. He did the Dusty impression, saying "You just have it." Like
rude.
Woo, very. And then he capped it off with saying, "What Dusty didn't teach you, I will." Like it was.
Yeah.
And he
even made the comment at one point that was like, you know what your dad said about you? You know what your dad told me about you? And I was like, oh, I know where this is going. Nothing.
Nothing.
Like, that's right. No surprise there. So,
yeah.
I mean, I do think for me, the part that's like kind of the weakest for Cody, and it's just like, don't shaking that man's hand. Like, I would not be shaking Roman's hand.
Exactly.
After all that. It just, like, you don't have to fight, but just like shaking his hand after he punks you out.
He completely punked him. And that's what people were talking about on Twitter. They're like, that is the most baby face thing Cody could do, because Cody, like, they're like, this man basically just ran down your whole entire household. And then you were like, well, I gotta win that title. Like, no, sir. Like, I saw so many. It was so funny. Like, so many people were pulling out the Arn Anderson clip. Like, this is the time you grab the Glock, and then like,
yeah. But to be honest, like, once Arn Anderson puts the gun fingers to your head, like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, it was funny. I basically the general consensus was that Cody didn't hit back hard enough for people's liking. Like you said, why would you shake the hand of the man who basically just said you were nothing and worthless in the eyes in your father's eyes?
Like, yeah, I would have loved if Cody just said, I don't care if the bloodline is here, just slap the taste out of Roman's mouth and just was like, don't talk about my father. Don't talk about
not even that. He probably should have just slapped his hand, because Roman had his hand out. He could have just slapped his hand,
or even but giving him, or even just walk away, right? Like giving him that handshake though. Ooh,
915 days, Matt. 915.
I like 1,000. I like that as a nice round number.
Yeah, I think that this was great. I mean, this is technically their first face-to-face, right? This is their first face-to-face before WrestleMania. It got people hyped. What more can you want? Honestly, this is good. I'm excited to see what happens. And then, like, in the meantime, while we have this Roman and Cody stuff at the forefront, you got the what's going on with the bloodline in the background, and it's good storytelling. It truly is. Like, it's really good storytelling. Not much developed over this week. Jey Uso wasn't present. The biggest thing is Roman Reigns told Jimmy that if Jey Uso isn't back in 1 week, then Roman's gonna blame Jimmy for it. So Sammy's still going strong. Yeah,
and I will say, like, for me, the thing that jumps out is that Roman, at least at one point, was this just physically dominant performer. Out of the Shield, he was like the muscle out of it. But what I think is so interesting is that Roman, he attacks people psychologically, which is very fascinating. And I think that that's also his weakness, is like the psychological attacks from other people. Like, it's very odd to me that Roman is so pressed about Jey not being there, because I could also see a world where Roman's like, whatever, like, we don't care, like, we don't need him. But the fact that Roman is not only like affected by that and clearly thinking about it, but then also continuing with the psychological attacks, like, fascinating for that Roman character. Like, I'd never thought of him as being like such a mastermind and a strategist before, maybe the last like 7 or 8 months. He's continued to evolve.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, it's still so good. We still have 4 weeks of build, so it's perfect. Like, I feel like the timeline is moving along very smoothly. What do you think? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is their first promo. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if we'll get a contract. Do they do contract signings for WrestleMania?
They could do whatever the hell they want.
They could do whatever they want to, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I think this is a good step. Like, we're face to face. We got 4
I don't
weeks.
think they need a contract signing because they won the
they won the Rumble, right? That's what I said.
So I'm assuming it happened already.
But I feel like they've done that before.
They do whatever they want, Mari.
Yeah.
And the thing, here's what we should pay attention to. Do Cody and Roman get a contract signing, and do Rhea and Charlotte get a contract signing? Because I would just want it to be consistent.
Right. Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Either way, I think it's good. I think where the Bloodline storyline is pretty good too. Again, we're still trying to figure out what they're going to be up to at Mania. Mm-hmm. Again, I would love some sort of multi-man match. Like, I didn't include this because they didn't put it up on WWE, but Gunther is asking for an opponent for the IC title, and Sheamus and Drew are lobbying for it. Kofi and Karrion Kross are lobbying for it, and Gunther is like, I need a worthy opponent. Give me a ladder match somewhere, damn it.
Not Money in the Bank. Ladder match.
No. Give me hang a title up. Hang title in the bank. Up.
Yes.
Title in the bank. Like, I would love it. That'd be so funny. Like, if you do a ladder match for Gunther, because I wonder what his take on a ladder match would be. You know what I'm saying? Since he's like, this is a pure art form. I am the Ring General. I don't, would he not like ladder matches?
Of climbing ladders? Like, I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Like, is he a purist? Like, he just wants like a one-on-one match or something like that? That'd be kind of cool. But something like that. Like, so again, we have plenty of weeks to go through the stuff, and so it's time will tell. So that's it for the highlights of the week. Again, all of the highlights of the weeks can be found in our show notes or show descriptions, and a very handy dandy playlist so you can watch along. We'll take a quick break and we'll go into the shoot. We're back for the shoot segment. Of course, in the world of wrestling, a shoot is any unplanned, unscripted, real life occurrence that happens within a wrestling event. And for us, it's our time to either get flowers, get something off our chest, air our grievances. This week we will be talking about the WWE Legends program featuring Chyna. So this week, WWE Legends on A&E, they do like little documentaries on several different WWE superstars. And this week, Chyna is getting her own documentary. Yeah. And we wanted to talk about it. So to start off, Chyna, for me, Chyna was legit my favorite women's wrestler. She is one of the people who I remembered for, like, one of my earliest wrestling memories was of Chyna and DX. And I've told this story so many times, but like Chyna getting the fireball to the eye from Kane on accident was one of those moments that I was like, this is so cool. This is so badass. Like, she is my favorite. Her win against Ivory at WrestleMania 17 is one of my favorite moments and one of my favorite storylines because again, we know how much I love Ivory and Right to Censor. Chyna just beating her like it was nothing was one of my favorite things to watch. And then I think that was one of Chyna's last matches in WWE, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And of course, I said it just a few short weeks ago, Chyna and Eddie Guerrero literally just, oh my God, one of my favorite storylines of all time, which is, again, why I think I love this Dominic and Rhea stuff so much. Just seeing a man treat a woman like that, like on TV, especially a woman who was like very like built and like as a kid for me, I played so many sports as a kid. I was very athletic. I had a very athletic build, and I was made fun of that like mercilessly a lot. And So to see women who were also built like that being treated with respect and love and all of that, it was one of the earliest moments that I loved seeing, and it gave me confidence as well.
Yeah.
And I just love Chyna so much. I will watch this, but there have been lots of thoughts on why is this documentary coming out now when you're celebrating her now that she's no longer here, when she had
Right.
begged you to give her flowers when she was alive. How do you feel
Yeah.
about Chyna in this documentary, Matt?
Well, I mean, I really appreciate you, Mar, giving the kind of your background in terms of China.
Mhm.
And, I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about it. I feel like the promo I saw for this, or one of the promos I saw for this documentary, mentioned not only the China documentary, but then also the episode that they'll do on the Rock John Cena feud, which I'm
Yeah,
like,
feud, yeah,
these things
mhm.
are not equivalent. Like China
Yeah.
is so much more interesting and so much more underserved than Cena and The Rock and all of that. And I'm sure there's interesting stuff there. But like for me, the thing that's really interesting about China is that when I became a wrestling fan, she was like, I knew who she was because she was all over the place.
Mhm.
And this was also the era of like Xena Warrior Princess, but like
Mhm.
China was like the actual version of Xena Warrior Princess in a
Mhm.
way. But I remember seeing China on VH1 on the Surreal Life where she had her issues with addiction, and VH1 really had China all over the place. Like I can't remember what's called, but I feel like also there's like the addiction show or the celebrity rehab.
Yeah,
She might have been
Celebrity
on
Rehab
that
or something, yeah,
too.
mhm, yeah.
And that was a lot of what we were exposed to with China in that era. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
she did have some wrestling that she did post WWE. So she had a match in
Yeah,
Japan,
she did,
at
yep.
least one. And then she also had a match that I remember where she teamed up with Kurt Angle against Jeff Jarrett and Karen Jarrett, I want to say, in TNA or in Impact. And so there was a little bit of that, but she never like fully got things together. But when she kind of got out of, or when she started to be in like a better place, because as
Mhm.
folks could know with addiction, like, you know, it's a roller coaster. But at points when she was in a better place, she was really campaigning to be in the WWE Hall of Fame and to be
Yep.
acknowledged by them. And Triple H's standard response was, what if they Google China? She'd done adult films. What if they Google her and the kids see her? What do we tell the kids about China? She's in adult films. When it's like, sir, your brand is basically a softcore adult film at all times. So
Right.
anyway, like she just deserves so much better. I do
Mhm.
wonder how they'll talk about her exit from WWE, how they'll talk about Triple H and China and Stephanie McMahon if they do. I just feel like there will undoubtedly be some erasure of the facts here,
Definitely.
but better to have, I mean, that like the cool thing about this is if they acknowledge everything the way it should be acknowledged, which they won't, then then that's great. And if they don't, it also puts a spotlight on the things that they chose to leave out. So I'm just happy she's getting a little bit more of a spotlight. Give her spot in the Hall of Fame. Damn it, it's about time.
Exactly, and it's like it's all of those things because I too we come from a reality TV background.
Yeah.
I saw her on the Surreal Life and X-Pac coming on
Oh my
there,
God,
and
no, yeah.
oh, so bad. Like the China Triple H drama
Hmm.
was the first piece of like backstage news, like non-kayfabe news that I consumed as a kid.
Hmm.
I remember when she left, I was completely like, what happened? Like, I was so confused. And I remember seeing her like on the cover of one of the pro wrestling magazines. I can't remember which one it was at the time, where it's like China's side of the story. And that was like the first magazine wrestling magazine I
Yeah.
ever bought. I read the whole article. I read her book when the book came out about like the relationship between her and Triple H,
Mm,
and how Triple H and Stephanie, he cheated on her with Stephanie, basically gaslit her to make her think that nothing was going on.
yeah.
then dumping her, and then possibly her removal being, for their comfort, like I remember consuming that as like a 12-year-old, as a 13-year-old, that, so.
And by the way, let me say, like, I want to also acknowledge that Chyna is so interesting because by no means was she a perfect person or like flawless in all of this. And, there's a lot that you can kind of point to in her career. But I remember just a few weeks ago watching a segment on some random ass news show or some talk show where it was her, I think the Cat and Sable. And basically Sable was like shooting on Chyna, calling her out for doing unnatural things to get her body.
Yeah.
And Chyna was going back at her. And like Chyna had no interest or very little interest in being part of the women's division and kind of looked down on that a little bit at the time, or maybe a lot of it at the time. So like there's a lot there. But I just think like her complexity deserves to be acknowledged because she was a beautiful person, like in a human who kind of got screwed, I think, on the way out for how huge of an icon she is. Like we'll never know what Chyna could still be on WWE TV. Could you imagine? As a legend?
Could you imagine? Like all of the stuff that she missed, it's just it's so unfortunate. She was like a year or two out from like the 2003 class of women, that introduced us to Trish and Lita and Mickey and like, that era of women's wrestling.
Which, to be fair, I mean, in Chyna's, I do really wonder, and maybe there's more of this out there, but I am so curious what Chyna's impression of women's wrestling became over time, because it did evolve so much from what she was really working with in WWE, where she was like the one physical force, because they really did put her in that spot where if there was anything ego related around Chyna, like it was deserved because she was put in that spot. And she should be treated like, the top star above the men and the women and everybody. And so like there's just a lot there, but I'm excited to see how they cover it. I'm also ready to be disappointed in how they cover it, but I'm just happy that they're talking about her and that she has that spotlight again.
Yeah, she was the first woman to ever enter the men's Royal Rumble. She was the first woman to be the Intercontinental champion, and she did that twice. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. She had I need to rewatch her Good Housekeeping match with Jeff Jarrett again, because that used to be like my favorite for a long. As a kid, that was my favorite at one point. Looking back, like what is this craziness? So I'm into it. I'm down. I'm down for Chyna. It's like it is a tragic tale, but also it's amazing how with Chyna we do still look back at her as being a favorite or the favorite, which it's not the saddest story, but it is really sad because she wanted to do so much more. Joni Lauer.
And it's really sad because like I just see a lot of people like, I'm not gonna watch this because WWE had the chance to acknowledge her when she was alive, and now they want to throw flowers at her grave and make money on her after that she's dead. And that's a very valid take. I'm not disputing that take, but however, I am interested in seeing and celebrating her life, you know what I'm saying, and her career and who she was and how an inspiration she was to me. So that is why I'm going to watch it. And I'm pretty sure we'll both watch it and we'll both tell you what we felt about it, because I am very interested on how they're going to approach this.
Yeah, no, and I do get that take of not wanting to watch it because it could, and it'll be interesting once we see it, because I do feel like it'll be kind of propaganda filled of painting the story the way that they want to. So I get not wanting to watch it, but I mean, I think that if I were in that same position and it was me who was gone and someone made a documentary and I'm like, oh, they like that, they're the most problematic people in Matt's life, but they made a documentary, like watch it and then critique it and continue the conversation. Like what Chyna would want is that conversation continuing. One thing I've always found so positive about Chyna's estate or the people around her after her passing, and I don't feel like this is for money or anything like that, is that even when she was around, and I followed her on Twitter when she was still like around and alive, and it was cool to see, like they were she was putting out videos, like they were pushing for her to be in the Hall of Fame, to be acknowledged. Like her management still posts about that. Actually, and I don't know when this happened, Mari, I guess after her passing, but like Chyna's Twitter account follows me back, which is cool. And it's like someone who's very engaged with the fandom. And yeah, I just let's see what they do. But it's good that she's being talked about at least. And maybe this does mean she'll be in the Hall of Fame this year. Like it is interesting timing. One can only hope.
It's been so weird the last few years how they're not, like, remember back in even I want to say 2016, 2017, 2018, they used to introduce the Hall of Famers, like talk about the Hall of Fame induction class, like January. At the start of the year.
Or even earlier sometimes, like December. Yeah. So
now, like I don't even remember last year's class because
I don't either.
It's like they haven't been making a big deal about it.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
And they're I don't know.
Weird.
Yeah.
So all right, that's it for the shoot segment. Let us know your thoughts. Will you be watching the Chyna doc? Let us know. So Matt, let's go into your plugs first before I give all of our stuff. What do you have going on?
Thank you, Mari. Other than being here, of course, on the Wrestling Wrap-Up, you could follow me, Matt Scotchy W, on social media, on Twitter. Hit me up on Twitter, especially. Big thing I have going on is the season finale of Pod Friends, where I interview people in the RHAP as a podcast world about who they are and about their lives. So last week's episode featured Akiva Winokur, who is a massive sports fan, kind of also a wrestling fan. Hopefully we'll have him on here at some point or do some wrestling related stuff with him over on Rob and Akiva Need a Podcast. But Akiva was great. And this coming week is my season finale with the one and only Nick Iadanza, who was on Survivor Australia twice, but covers it, talks about sometimes on Rob as a podcast. Great conversation, really powerful stuff. And you could subscribe to Pod Friends at robhasawebsite.com/podfriendsfeed and catch up on a bunch of great conversations. Mari referenced that she was on back in the day, the early days, the infancy of Pod Friends, back in the baby podcast. But yeah, no, it's catch up on all of it. Lots of great conversations, whether or not you know who the folks are. And that's the big stuff I'm up to that I'll plug for now. But again, Matt Scotchy W on the socials to keep up. Mari, where, wait, I'm going to say my line. Where can the people find you? Ooh,
okay, there you go. Yeah, great. So every Tuesday, me and Sarah Carradine bring you True Crime Tuesdays to RHAP with the Crime Scene podcast. This week coming up, we have, just in time for Women's History Month, we have Latanya Starks on the podcast with us to talk about the feature film She Said, based on the Harvey Weinstein articles and stuff like that. So it's available on Peacock. We watched it on Peacock. It is a very good movie. It is one of those Academy Award, Oscar like bait movies that was released back in November of last year, but for some reason didn't get as much critical acclaim that I thought it should have. And so you can definitely go listen to our thoughts about it. I definitely suggest you watch it. It was so good. It's very gripping for like if you like dialect driven movies, because it's about the two reporters, Jodie Cantor and Megan Towie, how they like track down and talk to all of the victims of Harvey Weinstein and try and get them to go on the record about their time and how they try to expose sexual harassment in the film industry and stuff like that. So it was very, very interesting. It's like if you like Spotlight, it's like that, like Spotlight. So definitely go check us out. You can go to robhasawebsite.com/crime feed in order to subscribe to the Crime Scene podcast. Also, Big Brother Canada is back. Question mark. Yeah, no live feeds, unfortunately. So next week I will be joining coverage for BB Canada. So Thursday night. I'll be there on Thursday night reviewing the Thursday episode. So you can follow me at Mari Talks Too Much. That's 2 like the number 2 on Twitter in order to see where else I am, where I'll be popping up, what I'll be guesting on. So if you want to hear more from me, just follow me there. Of course, please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Wrestling RHAPup podcast. Go to robhasawebsite.com/wrestling feed in order to subscribe. Leave us your 5 stars, your ratings, your reviews. It will truly help us, keep the program going.
Keep the lights on, please.
Yeah.
Please subscribe. I hope that my begging will help people subscribe. Yeah. They're listening to this point.
You can also send us any long form questions to email us at wrestling@robhasawebsite.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Wrestling RHAPup on Twitter. That's at Wrestling RHAPUP. Join our official, unofficial Facebook group, the Job Has a Squadcast Facebook group. Shout out to everybody in Job Has a Squadcast. Again, we appreciate you guys so much. That's where we get most of our questions whenever we remember to post to ask for questions. Yeah. But definitely if you if you want to send us any questions there, let us know. You can DM us and we'll get you into the group. And of course, anytime is a great time to become an RHAP patron. Go to Patreon, www.patreon.com/RHAP to become an RHAP patron. This is the perfect time because regular Survivor just started this past week. So much exclusive interviews, podcasts, patron only, like Q&As and events. This is the perfect time to become a patron of RHAP. So definitely go and do that.
Do it.
So thank you so much for joining us this week. For me and Matt Scott, we just want to say thank you. Remember that wrestling is for everybody, but not all wrestling is for everyone. Bye.
Throw 'em up, lay it down just like Matt and Mari. Wrestling RHAPup's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every week and it's feeling like a party. Moolah Ric Flair, showing out like Bianca, Belair, Best podcast, flush it in the air, From the rings and we win it, don't care, No cap. Throw 'em up, lay it down just like Matt and Mari. Wrestling RHAPup's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every week and it's feeling like a party.